host perspective, I guess it couldn't have gone better in terms of the results. From an actual entertainment perspective, it has to be said, and we call it like it is here on the State of the Union, not the most riveting type of soccer, nothing that you would put in a time capsule in terms of both the New Zealand game and the Australia game.
Yeah, any World Cup we cover, we always root for the host nations to do well, to galvanize the country, because that can really lift the whole tournament. And so we'll see if we get that here. For New Zealand, it was pretty historic, a 1-0 win over Norway. Hannah Wilkinson with the only goal. She is a former Tennessee Volunteer, so producer Sean was very excited about that. It is New Zealand's first ever Women's World Cup win. This is their 6th appearance. It was their 16th match at this stage, and they finally get a W, so it's a great start for them.
Great start for them. As you mentioned, a historic type of start given their futility in winning at World Cups. And you saw on the faces of the players after the game how important it was to them. I will say, because you mentioned Wilkinson and this association with the U.S., and another peek behind the curtain. Obviously, we are broadcasting to the United States, and we are the broadcasters of a World Cup that the United States is defending. And so, yes, things are going to be U.S.-centric. Are we going to give plenty of love and time to all the other teams and all the other stories that are there? Absolutely. But guess what? If you are watching our broadcast when it comes to Fox in the United States, it is going to be U.S.-centric. And we are going to make associations where they are with U.S. Players that have played in the U.S., players that have connections to the U.S., and we would not be doing our job because it is a connection. It is something to entice. It is something to interest people out there. It is TV 101. And I'm not saying people are complaining because I think everybody understands that, but leaning into a background playing for the University of Tennessee or something like that, that is a no-brainer. And the fact that she paid it off, by the way, after Carly Lloyd had her as her player to watch, not necessarily going out on a limb, was very, very nice.
And by the way, New Zealand might not have great World Cup pedigree, but Hannah Wilkinson has scored in 3 different World Cups now, so she
Never been done men's or women's from a New Zealand perspective.
The flip side of that result was Norway, which used to be one of the great powers in the women's game. They won the World Cup in 1995. They've struggled lately. In the last Euros, they lost a game 8-0 to England. I thought this tournament might be a chance for them to reestablish themselves, but terrible start for Ada Hegerberg and company.
They looked rudderless. And should we be surprised, Mosse? Because they're coming off of a not good period, and a period where everyone said, "Oh, this is bad in terms of the Euros. This is bad in terms of where they are going." And I think everybody thought that they'll get it together for the World Cup. Now it's still early days, just one game, but this team did not look like they had any understanding of how they wanted to play. There was no ruthlessness when it came collectively or to the individual players. Ada Hegerberg, who obviously is a very, very big story, finally back at the World Cup after skipping the last World Cup in protest, she was non-existent. Not necessarily her fault, but keep in mind that she was at the height of her powers when she was last seen at the World Cup, and now we look at her. Well, not at the height of her powers, but she was still young. But we missed that World Cup, and we thought, all right, finally returning. So they're going to have to get their you-know-what together going forward, because this throws this whole group, for those that predicted different things, into disarray.